The first thing you notice about Angola is how quiet it feels. Miles of open land, crops swaying gently in the wind, the kind of stillness that should feel peaceful. But it isn't, because this land isn't just farmland, it's a prison. And not just any prison, but one of the largest maximum security prisons in the United States. A place where thousands of men wake up every morning, not to freedom, but to fields they cannot leave. Fields they work, fields they depend on, fields that feed them. And if you look closely, you begin to realize something unsettling. The same ground that grows their food is the same ground that traps them. What happens here isn't just about survival, it's about control. And what these men grow might be the least disturbing part of the story, because what happens next is even harder to accept. Angola sits on 18,000 acres of land in Louisiana. That's not a typo, 18,000 acres. It's so large that it has its own internal road system, its own fire department, even its own zip code. But what most people don't know is how it got its name. Angola wasn't chosen randomly. It comes from the African country of the same name because this land was once a plantation where enslaved people were forced to work. The soil remembers, and in a way, the system hasn't changed as much as people would like to believe. Today, inmates many serving life sentences work these same fields. They wake up before sunrise, they line up, and they walk out. Not to freedom, but to labor. Some call it rehabilitation. Others call it something else entirely. But one question quietly lingers beneath it all. When does punishment become something more? The day starts early. Too early. Before the sun rises, the lights snap on. No warning. No gradual wake up. Just brightness and noise. Men stir from thin mattresses. Some already awake. Others pulling themselves out of sleep. Like it's something heavy. There's no time to linger, because time here isn't yours. Breakfast comes fast, simple, basic, enough to keep you moving, but never enough to forget where you are. Then comes the lineup. Hundreds of men standing in formation, waiting to be assigned their work for the day. The fields, the kitchens, maintenance. Each role carries its own risks and its own rules, and breaking those rules, that's where things begin to change. Because what happens to those who don't comply is something few talk about openly, but everyone understands. By mid-morning, the fields are alive. Men spread across acres of land, bent over crops, corn, soybeans, sugarcane. They plant it, they tend it, they harvest it, and in many cases, they eat it. The cycle is closed. What they grow comes back to them. But the conditions, they can be brutal. The Louisiana heat doesn't hold back. Temperatures climb. Humidity presses down like a weight on your chest. And still, the work continues. There are no shortcuts here. No easy days. Because stopping isn't always an option. And if someone slows down, if they fall behind, that's when attention shifts. Not from the other inmates, but from the guards. And that attention is something no one wants. One of the most striking things about Angola is how control is maintained, not just through fences, not just through walls, but through presence. Guards on horseback patrol the fields. It's not symbolic, it's practical. From that height, they can see everything, every movement, every hesitation, every potential problem, before it becomes one. The message is clear. You are always being watched. And in a place like this, visibility is power. Because even without words, the system communicates something very specific. Stay in line, or there will be consequences. And those consequences, they don't always look the same. After hours in the fields, the day circles back to food. But this isn't just any food. It's the result of their own labor. Vegetables grown on prison soil, crops harvested by prison hands, prepared inside prison kitchens, served back to the same men who grew them. It sounds efficient, maybe even sustainable, but for the inmates, it's something else. It's a reminder, a quiet, constant loop. You work to eat, you eat to work, and somewhere in between, you survive. But survival here isn't just about food. Because not all meals are equal, not all portions are fair, and not all power lies with the system. Some of it exists among the inmates themselves, And that's where things begin to get complicated. Inside Angola, there's an unspoken structure, a hierarchy that isn't written down, but everyone knows it. Some inmates hold influence, others keep their heads down, and some struggle just to get through the day without becoming a target. Food plays a role in this. Access, portions, favors. In a place where resources are limited, even something as basic as a meal can become power. And power changes behavior. It shapes alliances. It creates tension, and sometimes it leads to conflict. Because when survival depends on more than just following rules, the lines between right and wrong start to blur. Not everyone adapts, not everyone complies, and when rules are broken, the system responds. Punishments can vary: loss of privileges, isolation, extended time away from the fields, or deeper into confinement. And isolation, that's where things become difficult. Time slows down, silence becomes overwhelming, and the absence of movement feels heavier than labor ever did. Some inmates say it's worse than the fields, because in the fields, at least there's distraction. In isolation, there's only time, and your thoughts, and sometimes, that's harder to endure. Many of the men here will never leave. Life sentences, no parole, no second chance waiting outside. Angola isn't temporary for them, it's permanent, which changes everything. Because when time stretches endlessly ahead, survival isn't just physical, it becomes psychological. Routine becomes stability, work becomes structure, and the fields become something familiar, not freedom, but something close to it. And that raises a question that lingers quietly beneath everything. What happens when a place designed to confine you becomes the only life you know? Angola is often described as self-sustaining. It produces much of its own food. It runs its own systems. It operates almost like a contained world. But that self-sufficiency comes from labor, from the men inside. And that creates a cycle that's difficult to ignore. They grow the food, they prepare it, they consume it, and then they return to the fields again and again and again. It works, but at what cost? As the day ends, the fields empty, the sun drops, and the silence returns. But inside the prison, the routine continues. Meals, count checks, lights out, and then it begins again. The next day, the next week, the next year. For some, the next lifetime. Survival here isn't just about food, or labor, or following rules. It's about adapting to a system that doesn't change. A system that expects consistency, obedience, endurance. And for those who can't adjust, the consequences aren't always immediate, but they are always there, waiting. From above, Angola looks almost peaceful. Open land, endless sky, a place that could be mistaken for something else entirely. But beneath that surface is a reality shaped by routine, labor, and control. A place where men grow their own food, not by choice, but by necessity. Where survival is structured, measured, enforced, and where the line between punishment and purpose isn't always clear. Because in Angola, survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about learning how to exist in a world that was never meant to be escaped. And once you understand that, you begin to see the fields differently, not just as land, but as something else entirely, something that feeds and confines at the same time. And the question that remains is simple. If survival depends on the system, what happens when the system is all there is? Inside Angola, the fields may grow the food, but the kitchen decides how it's given. And in a place like this, that difference matters. The kitchen is one of the most controlled environments in the entire prison, not because of the equipment, but because of what it represents. Access. Every tray that leaves that serving line carries more than just food. It carries structure, order, and sometimes quiet tension. Inmates working in the kitchen operate under a different kind of pressure. Their job isn't just to prepare meals, it's to do it quickly, consistently, and without mistakes. Because mistakes don't just affect one person, they affect hundreds. And when something goes wrong here, it doesn't stay small for long. Meals are portioned carefully, measured, standardized. but not every tray looks exactly the same, and the men receiving them notice. They always notice, because when food is one of the few constants in your day, even the smallest difference can feel significant. And that's where another layer of the system reveals itself. Not through rules, but through human behavior. Inside Angola, survival isn't just about following orders. It's about understanding people. Favors exist, small ones, quiet ones, an extra scoop of food, a better position in line, a task assignment that keeps you out of the sun. None of it is officially allowed, but it happens, because in any closed system, people find ways to create their own balance. And those small privileges, they come with expectations, unspoken agreements, debts that don't always stay small. Because once something is owed, it has to be repaid. And repayment inside a place like this doesn't always look the way you'd expect. Sometimes it's simple, other times it isn't. And that's when things begin to shift. There are official rules at Angola, written rules, clear rules, but those aren't the ones that shape daily life the most. The real rules, they're learned, observed, understood without being spoken. When to speak, when to stay quiet, where to stand, who to avoid, and maybe most important of all, what not to see, because noticing the wrong thing can put you in the wrong position, and in a place where control is everything, being in the wrong position can change everything. Some inmates learn these rules quickly, others don't. And for those who don't, the system has ways of teaching them, not always directly, but always effectively. By the time the sun reaches its peak, the fields feel different, heavier, slower, the air thickens, breathing becomes effort, and the body begins to push back. But the work doesn't stop. It continues, row after row, hour after hour, because in Angola, endurance isn't optional. It's expected. Some men adapt to it. They find a rhythm, a way to conserve energy, to keep moving without burning out. Others struggle, and when someone struggles, it shows, not just to the guards, but to everyone, because weakness in a place like this doesn't go unnoticed. And the question that quietly follows is unavoidable. How long can someone keep going before something gives out? When night comes, the noise begins to fade, the movement slows, the voices quiet down, but silence doesn't mean peace, because even in the stillness, the system is still there. Count checks continue, doors remain locked, guards remain present, and inside each cell, each bunk, each narrow space, there's time. Time to think, time to remember, time to replay the day, and prepare for the next one. For some, exhaustion takes over quickly. Sleep comes fast. For others, it doesn't. Because when everything around you slows down, your thoughts don't always follow. And in a place like Angola, the mind can become just as demanding as the work itself. Over time, Angola changes people. Not all at once, not in obvious ways, but slowly, through repetition, through routine, through the constant pressure of structure. Some men adapt. They learn the rhythm. They understand the system. They find ways to exist within it, without resisting it. Others don't. They hold on to something outside, something that doesn't fit here. And that resistance, even if it's quiet, creates friction, because Angola doesn't bend easily. It doesn't adjust. It stays the same. And when someone refuses to change with it, the system doesn't stop. It continues forward, with or without them. Morning comes again, just like before. The same fields, the same routines, the same expectations. Nothing has changed. And yet, everything feels heavier, because once you've seen the full cycle, once you understand how it works, you can't unsee it. The land, the labor, the food, the control, all connected, all repeating, day after day, year after year, for some men, for the rest of their lives. And that's when the realization settles in. This isn't just a place where people are sent. It's a place that continues, whether they're ready for it or not. From a distance, Angola looks like farmland, quiet, orderly, and almost ordinary. But distance hides details. It softens reality. And the reality here is anything but ordinary. This is a place where survival is structured, where food is grown, not just to sustain, but to sustain a system where routines replace choices, and where time doesn't move forward the way it does outside. Because inside Angola, time repeats, the same work, the same meals, and the same rules, over and over again, until the days stop feeling separate, and start feeling like one continuous moment. And maybe that's the hardest part to understand, not the labor, not the heat, not even the confinement, but the repetition, the idea that tomorrow will look exactly like today, and the day after that will look exactly the same. Because in the end, Angola isn't just about what inmates grow or what they eat. It's about what they become while surviving it. And once that process begins, it doesn't stop easily, because the system isn't designed to change. It's designed to continue, and out there, beyond the fields, life keeps moving forward, but in here, it stands still.